Chapter 7. When Father is a part of me. Every morning when I wake up, as I make my first cup of coffee, I often find myself thinking about Dad. Not the painful or heart-wrenching memories like before, but small fragments, like the gentle knocking on the porch railing, the sound of him calling, "Have you eaten yet?" or the quiet look he gave me every time I stepped out of the house. I used to think that to heal, I had to completely get rid of my father, as if I needed to shed all the old memories to live peacefully. But then I realized, Dad didn't need to be run away from. Dad is a part of me, clumsy, but genuine. The imperfect father, and he didn't need to be perfect either. There's a strange thing in human psychology. We often expect others, especially parents, to be perfect in the things we lacked. When I was little, I lacked concern, lacked words of encouragement. I was often scolded for small things, forgetting to say hello, spilling the bowl, or simply not being tough like a boy should be. I used to complain about those things. I used to think he was cold, authoritarian, rigid. But now, having lived through a few more spring seasons, I'm starting to understand. The father of the past was also just a victim of a harsh era, of a strict family, of pains that hadn't been named. I remember once, I asked him, "Why did you used to scold me so much?" He didn't answer right away. Then he said, his eyes looking far away, because Dad was scared. Scared of what? Scared you'd be like Dad. At that moment, I understood. He didn't hate me. He was just afraid I would grow up with the same wounds as him. But instead of protecting me with love, he used discipline, used scolding, used what he called teaching his son to be a man. And I also understood. Adults sometimes love in the way they were loved, or worse, in the way they were never loved. The biggest lesson: forgiveness isn't about forgiving others, but about forgiving yourself. For many years, I lived in a shadow. That shadow wasn't my father's, but my own, of a child who wasn't hugged, who always thought he wasn't good enough, not important enough, not worthy enough to be loved. I used to push myself to succeed, not because I liked it, but to prove to Dad, I'm good. I don't need you, I'm still living well. But in the end, what I needed wasn't victory. It was peace. And I didn't have it, until I learned to forgive myself. The main thing isn't saying that what they did was right. The main thing is that I didn't want to live in that pain forever anymore. It's that I chose to give up the right to be legitimately resentful, to reclaim freedom for myself. This forgiveness is a long process, without a clear destination. But each step is a relief. Every time I write a diary entry, make a phone call to Dad, or simply don't cry when I think about him, I know, I am forgiving, and I am growing up. When the father grows old, and we become the father of ourselves. My father has grown old. Every time I return to my hometown, I see him getting smaller, no longer the large figure I used to fear. His eyes are also calmer, his gaze no longer heavy like a mountain, but gentle like the evening breeze. I used to fear him. But now, I often eagerly wash his hands and feet, cut his nails, cook for him, tell him random stories, things he never did for me, but I still do for him, with a heart that no longer holds anger. And while taking care of Dad, I suddenly realized one thing. I was no longer the child who needed to be protected. I had become the father of myself. I acknowledge the old sadness, soothe it. I know how to tell myself, I'm okay. I know how to wipe away tears when no one else does. And I know how to be gentler with myself. There is a part of him living within me, and I am grateful for that. One day, while teaching the little kids to play tic-tac-toe, one of them looked at me and said, "You look so much like Grandpa." I smiled. I used to fear that. Fearing that being like Dad meant repeating the wounds. But now, I was no longer afraid. I am like Dad, not to continue the mistakes, but to rewrite what my father hadn't fulfilled. I am like Dad in the deep voice, in the way I quietly observe others, in the habit of sitting quietly when it rains. But I am different from Dad in that I know how to express love. I know how to say, "I love you, Dad." I know how to apologize when I make someone sad. I am different from Dad. And because of that, I can continue him, not with hatred, but with gratitude and awakened love. A message to you, who is also on the healing journey. If you have read this far, I just want to say, you are doing very well. You deserve to heal. You don't need to become someone else to be loved. You can start from the smallest things. A call you've never dared to make, a message you've never written, a time facing them without turning away. And if they don't change? It's okay. They may not be able to change. But you will change gentler, clearer, and more self-loving. No one is born to live in anger forever. We come together, father and child, not to hurt each other, but to learn how to love within very human limitations. When the grateful heart speaks. Now, every time I look back at this journey, from a deeply wounded child to someone who has healed, I no longer see a sad story. I have found a beautiful path forward. My father wasn't a hero. I wasn't a villain either. We were just two people, one who had been hurt, one who had been lost, and thankfully, we found our way back to each other. I write these last lines, not to rewrite a story, but to open another one, where love no longer carries the weight of expectation or punishment, but is presence, quiet and profound. And if you ask me, what is the biggest lesson after all? I will say, forgiveness doesn't change the past. But it changes the heart and from there, changes the future. Thank you for listening to this story, which may also be your own story. If today you begin to walk on the path of healing, believe that, you are not alone. And you deserve a gentle, lasting, genuine love, even if it starts with yourself.
I will share with you more healing videos, help you feel lighter, more motivated in this life. Please help me have more motivation to make videos by subscribing to the channel, sharing with people who need this video like you. Thank you very much.